all this started, movements don't happen in a vacuum from one another. They feed off each other, and this process happens globally. These are global interconnections. And I would say our period of movements, which is just now beginning, really started from the Arab Spring, with the young people in Egypt stepping out to carry out a successful revolution, which of course, there's no question it has a long way to go, but that really signaled the coming of a different age. After decades of being beaten down globally, the workers' movement, the movements of people of color, the movements of people who are colonized are starting to rise up again. In the United States, we saw this moment opening up through the Occupy movement. And for those people who said that Occupy didn't give us anything, I have my own critique of what we could have done better in Occupy, and I speak as an occupier myself. It is no question that Occupy opened up the space for real conversation, and we found out that tens of thousands, if not millions of young people who were all privately enraged at the income and wealth inequality, enraged and outraged at the way the banks, the very banks that caused the global economy to come to a brink of an abyss, were the very ones rewarded in the pre-recession era. And the vast majority of us were left with an epidemic of foreclosures and evictions, an economy that is booming for them but leaves us with a proliferation of low-wage jobs. A housing market that is making more and more of us homeless every day. And in all this cauldron, we are seeing struggles starting to emerge. This is very important, my sisters and brothers. We absolutely cannot afford to miss this moment. And the Black Lives Matter movement is a clear indication that young people are urgently wanting to move into struggle. And we've seen those developments in the environmental movement as well. And congratulations to Portland environmentalists for blocking the Shell Arctic icebreaker. In Seattle, at the same time, when the Shell oil rig was arriving at our port, we were in the canoes and the kayaks with the Native Americans and the environmentalists, fighting against the power of Shell, but understanding that there was a long way to go. By the way, I'm not like an expert canoeer or anything, but I was there myself and I was paddling. And I was there to see the surreal image of the monstrosity that is called the polar pioneer, which should more accurately be called the polar pillager. And Melissa mentioned, Seattle is now seeing a historic strike by the teachers, by the educators. And we've been in solidarity with this strike. We're seeing Bernie Sanders' message of the need for a political revolution against the billionaire class really gather an echo among tens of millions of people around the nation. In Portland, he spoke to 28,000 people. In Seattle, he spoke to 15,000 people. It's clear that a message of an alternative to the corrupt big business parties, an alternative to the completely defunct system of capitalism is being sought everywhere we see. And Melissa and Nick mentioned the phenomenal victory of Jeremy Corbyn as the leader of the Labour Party. And let's look at the numbers for a second. He has won the election as the leader of the Labour Party with an initial count of 59%, which is a solid majority. At the Sky TV debate, before the votes were cast. He went into the debate with a 66% approval rating. At the end of the debate, he had 81% approval rating. The person who came second to him in that approval rating got 8% approval rating. I cannot think of a more stark reminder of what people are looking for. People are not looking for timid messages that pay lip service to our issues but primarily serve Wall Street interests. People are fed up with that. People are angry with that. What working people, young people, retirees are looking for everywhere is a real fight back against the status quo. And I wanted to mention one more thing about Jeremy Corbyn because of, just to highlight how stunning a moment we are in. Margaret Thatcher, in her time, I'm sure even if you're, I wasn't old enough for her, to have experienced her as well, but I'm sure many of you have read about her. She said her biggest victory in favor of the ruling class, in favor of the billionaire class, was establishing what she called New Labour, meaning the complete betrayal by the erstwhile working class party and becoming a thorough, corrupt, cynical, neoliberal party. And Jeremy Corbyn's election presents a threat to that New Labour. This is a phenomenal thing. Well, it is in this global political context that Socialist Alternative in Seattle decided to run our city council election campaign in 2013. Socialist Alternative, as many of you may know, is a nationwide organization of social and economic justice activists. And in Seattle, like in many other places, we were seeing an opening for left politics, a hunger for a change away from corporate-dominated agenda. We've seen the US Congress approval ratings are unbelievably low. There was one survey that was done that said, that asked people who were surveyed, the survey respondents, do you like US Congress more or cockroaches more? Do you like US Congress more or root canal treatment? All the bad things you can think of. The US Congress approval rating is lower than any other bad thing you can think of. I'm not joking, they really did this survey. However, as Melissa mentioned, such victories as we have achieved in Seattle do not come automatically, and they certainly do not come easy. We, first of all, have to don the mantle of activists and organizers. That is imperative for us if we are to have any success in establishing any kind of social change, let alone a system change. And what Socialist Alternative has done in the last 2 or 3 years is, first of all, had a finger on the pulse of mass consciousness, understanding that there was a clear open door for left agenda, and that if we lost this moment, it would be lost. And we didn't know we were going to win when we launched the campaign. But what we did know, what we were completely confident of, was that our message would resonate with the working people of Seattle. And then another lesson from Socialist Alternative's campaign. It was not a campaign that began with one aggrandized individual. I didn't wake up one morning and say, I'm going to run for office and hopefully become a celebrity or something like that. We are an organized movement of activists with democratic decision-making within our bodies. And we collectively, through our political analysis, recognized that there was an opening. And we had democratic discussions and debate within Socialist Alternative on whether it makes sense to run an electoral campaign at this moment. And flowing from that, the candidate's choice should also be a democratic decision. I think this is a very important lesson for us if we are to carry through a model of democratically organized parties that can succeed in electing leaders that will remain accountable to the organization and to the movement. When we ran the 2013 campaign, it was clear to us that the demand for $15 an hour was taking root in the consciousness of workers, and we made that the most prominent part of our electoral platform. And we did a lot of what was captured by a writer named Tom Bernard, who has since joined the Socialist Alternative and is working on our campaign. He said, in his analysis of our victory in 2013, and accurately, he said, Socialist Alternative threw the rule book out the window. And what's the rule book for left activists that we are handed down by our so-called leaders? They tell us, you have to be timid, don't rock the boat. We did exactly the opposite. We were audacious, and every step of the way rocked the boat entirely. They said, you have to court the Democratic Party establishment because you're nobodies. This is a Democratic Party city. I mean, they were right about that. We were nobodies. It is a Democratic Party dominated city. But we did not court the establishment. We were very clear, unambiguous about our ties exclusively with the working families of Seattle. And our loyalties are undivided. We do not take money from corporations, not because it's some sort of morally pure idea we have, although that's important, but it's because the moment you take money from big business, you become beholden to them.